Welcome, Juventini, back to the All JuveCast, and this is episode 145. We are going to be covering the 3-0 victory for Juventus versus Crotone. We got a Ronaldo brace and one from McKennie, and yours truly called the score on the pre-match live yesterday, and my guest at the time, Jonathan Grade, actually nailed that game to a T with how he said it was going to go down. And we both thought it would be a business-like performance. That it was. Joining me today, I have Ulrik. Ulrik, we've been waiting for this episode for quite some time, and we have been discussing this club for quite some time, obviously throughout the season. So I'm glad the time has finally come. It's great to meet you. And thank you for joining me. And we have a tradition around here on the podcast. I know that you're familiar with it. And what it is finding out why Juventus for you. So if you don't mind, take the time to introduce yourself to our listeners and let us know where you're from and how you became a fan of Juventus.
Yeah, I'm. Name is Ulrik, and I am from Denmark. So I'm. It's my afternoon, your morning, but it works fine. As you might see, if you're on the YouTube channel, I'm not a young guy anymore. So my love story with Juventus actually started in '82 with the World Cup there in Spain. Uh, Almost all my friends, I was just 12 years old, running around. All my friends were cheering for the Brazilian team. So I got kind of counter and said, well, I really like the Italians. Didn't know many of the players. Then they ended up as world champions. And I was really thrilled about this. We call it Blocco Juve, the Dinosaur, the Gentile, Eschea, Bettiga, Tardelli, Rossi. There was like a bunch of people there from Juventus. So I started looking at Juventus, and back then there was like no YouTube, no Twitter, no stuff like that. So you had to take what you get. But the year after that, Michel Platini joined, and then I was hooked. That was really, the interest started with the World Cup, and Platini made it my team. He was amazing.
Yeah, Platini. That's amazing to be able to see Juve through arguably the best side they've ever had. When you start talking about guys around that era, especially, yeah, you mentioned the Bloc di Juve there at the back, right? So massive. So it's gonna be cool, and we've allowed some extra time towards the end that hopefully you could spend some time letting some of the younger listeners know and hear about what it was like supporting Juve through that time, right? So that's going to be great. Let's get to the match at hand, I guess, Ulrik. All right. And actually, before we go, Colin has a question for you, Ulrik, and it's, what did
Oh
you
yeah,
think of Brady, who played in that team?
he was there. I think he was great, and he was pushed out later. And I think you remember it was around the time when Michael Laudrup joined the club. It was like this limitations on foreigners. And Brady was fantastic. He went on Sampdoria and I think also Milan. He was a fantastic player, but he was not really the profile of Platini and Boniek at the time. And then, of course, I was thrilled to see my fellow countryman Michael Laudrup, who later was really good with Barcelona. But I had high hopes when he started, and was loaned out to Lazio, came back, was supposed to be the heir of Platini, never made it, was sold to Barcelona.
Yeah, Brady stepped up and hit that big PK also when the rumors were linked about them passing on him and whatnot. And it was yeah, it was pretty intense for that moment, but constant professional and got the job done and did what he had to. So yeah, but thanks for sharing there, and let's get to the match at hand. Juventus Crotone. This would have been Juventus's 250th home match at what's been a fortress for us. Incredible record at home, only dropping 13 since its opening. And we were looking to continue with that, and we needed it. 11 points off the lead 2 games in hand, absolute must win to keep things going and stay in stride. So, it's a lot of Juventini down in the dumps or whatnot, but you gotta keep going. The motto is fino alla fine, so I refuse to believe anything's done at this point in time.
Nothing is done. Nothing is done. No, absolutely not. We have potentially -5 on Inter. We have a game with them. Please calm down. We've been in worse situations many times before. But I was actually a little nervous yesterday. I'm happy to hear that you called the 3-0 and there's good victory. I was really nervous now, coming off 2 defeats, many injuries. Oh, I was really.
And we'll get to some of these feelings because, I said it was going to be 3-0 in terms because we were playing Crotone, who allows a lot. They allow their opponents a lot of opportunities. They allow a lot of goals. And looked at our lineup. We did have a lot of guys that were not 100%, but still, this is plenty to take Crotone. And I just thought it was going to be business-like, which is something that reflected the opening half hour, I'd say, of this match, which was trying to get the job done with minimal effort and output and not risk injuries or whatnot. But the big thing going into it, and I had a poll question on Twitter, and it was, we're coming off these 2 back-to-back losses. We need to take advantage of these games in hand. We do have guys that are not 100%, but then you have Bentancur, and the big question was Fagioli. Do you start Fagioli in this match? And I asked that. The poll came out somewhere around 68% yes, 32% saying no, you don't start him. And I understand both sides of it. I really do. And a lot of people thought that I was implying based on my question, because I said I do see the argument for the amount of pressure in this scenario, because even though it's a 20th table side, it's a must win in terms we have to get the 3 points. Do you bank on them? Do you put them in there? I still, in my gut, said you play him. And it has nothing to do with Bentancur, because honestly, I would have had Bentancur still in the lineup. I wouldn't have taken Bentancur out. I would have altered the way the team plays. Because I would have had 2 of them.
Ended up having Ramsey and McKennie very much forward.
I would have still had Ramsey on the side. I would have rested McKennie because he's on a bad hip. Okay. So if we have guys, you have McKennie who's on a bad hip. You have Ramsey who's just fresh, just back. You have Kulishevsky who's still ill. What's with the need to play all of them? If you have a youngster like this and it's a 20th table side team, get him his minutes. But not only that, it gives us an actual look at this kid in that moment, in that time. And it's not a high risk team being Crotone. So you put him in at the start when the urgency, the intensity, everything's there, and you see what he can do. I would have alternated how Bentancur and Fagioli played, but allow Bentancur to kind of be that box-to-box guy and let Fagioli kind of control things, and then go from there. And Ramsey could have stayed on the side and still advanced. And if you watch at the start of this match, Bentancur and Ramsey were alternating, coming back and whatnot, and who was taking the reins, so to speak, because it's also, while people want to say, oh, it's Bentancur, he's invisible, he didn't do anything that this entire match is showing here. It's also what the opponent gives you, and the opponent starts to hone in on who you want to control through, and they take that away. So actually, Crotone did okay in trying to do that, but Ramsey started being the one that dropped, and it helped. Ramsey actually did a lot of good stuff in this one. My issue with Ramsey is he's a little inconsistent, but Fagioli in this one, really see him play from the outset. How did you feel about it? Would you have played Fagioli?
It's easy to be really clever in hindsight and see that Pirlo did the right thing, give him minutes when it was safe. But yeah, maybe. But I would have kept Bentancur in there. And I know he's getting a lot of flack, and he cost us a goal, and he cost us chances, everything. But He's a really, really good defensive midfielder, and he's a really, really poor offensive midfielder. He cannot control the game. He's not a regista, but he's really good at closing the other people down and making the necessary tackles. And we need somebody like that. It could be Rabiot. It doesn't look good when it's both of them. So we need somebody with better skills. So I like your combination, but if you just replaced Fagnoli directly with Bentancur, I would have said that's too risky.
Yeah, and that's why I would have rested McKennie, give him the rest for the hip there and see what we do. But the rest of the lineup pretty straightforward. Buffon in goal, Danilo, Demiral, De Ligt, Sandro across the back, Chiesa, and rounds out the midfield with Bentancur, McKennie, and Ramsey, and then Kulusevski, CR7 up top. Again, no issues. There was a lot of flack coming at Pirlo saying, how could you go with Bentancur again after his last showing? Look, what are the options outside of Fagioli?
Rabiot was right here. Rabiot was on. Yeah. Oh God, I'm alone. I'll run the show now. Yeah, so there's no Rabiot on the bench. There was nothing there. So let me know if I'm. Let me just see.
Apologies, Ulrik.
Oh, you're back.
Okay. So, again, as I'm saying, what are his options? What are Pirlo's options really in terms of this?
No options in that midfield. That was the only thing that you suggested. I would say my only concern was really again Kulusevski, which has been very, very hot and mostly cold, and he's not a natural striker. But again, what's the option? Morata apparently is still sick or coming out of sickness, and Dybala's out. So yeah.
He's got no options. This is the team he went with. I agree with this team. Again, I would have had Fagioli in there because I don't like the way McKennie's looked in recent matches. So my thought was get him the rest he needs because he does look off. It's also the 20th table side. Again, we talked about that. Give Fagioli the minutes from the start. I need to see him not with the space against Spal in Coppa Italia, and I don't need to see him in a dusted match. I need to see him when everything's on the line and the intensity is just that little bit higher, because you don't truly know what you have until you actually test him in those moments. So even though we're giving him these minutes on the outskirts of matches or whatnot, it's just showing you a glimpse when things are safe. And it's honestly, it's in moments that are easy to play in. It's not enough. It's not enough of a gauge that when the time comes, should we suffer an injury in the middle of the park, you have the confidence to go with that player. It's not giving us that.
I get you, but he's also building confidence now. He has two really good games, the Spal game and now the last, 20 minutes yesterday. So he's kind of growing into it, and he looked really,
I need to see him. I need to see him from a start. Everything's there. I like what I do see when he goes in there, but again, the only reason that makes me question it is the moments. But we'll get into this as the game goes. We'll go through the first half here as far as opportunities go and just some of the highlights. So we actually start off the match again. When you're going to approach a match in a business-like fashion, I totally anticipated a lousy, lazy start, and that's kind of what you see. 6 minutes in, Crotone actually gets a great opportunity. Danilo was unfortunate and slipped, and Crotone slashes at this ball, just goes wide 6 minutes in. 18th minute, we get a nice forward move, and Ramsey makes an absolute mess on it at the end on our counter, but that's expected. Again, this guy's going to be rusty. He hasn't played quite some time.
That was Danilo coming back. He started out 5 minutes horribly, and that chance there, that was Danilo opening up his inner Hakimi, just running through it.
This is one of the things I've criticized this club for, is if teams are going to play a certain way, even if they're not, you have to commit players to the offense. If we're not having our midfielders joining in the attack, if we're not having those fullbacks, those other guys to get in there and join the rush, it's how teams score against us. They overload us at times.
Yeah.
Why are we so afraid to overload them? In certain opportunities, when you see that the play is there, push it with the give and go, make that run, step in there and get involved. It's something this team needs to do more of. And when we do, it actually works out quite well and we start to look very dangerous. Sometimes you have to throw that extra guy at them and force the defenders to make a decision. And it's going to complicate things for them and make it much harder for them. If we go at them like we usually do for most of the match with the set number of attackers, which is your 2 forwards, your 1 attacking mid, your 1 outside, and your mids barely get involved, and the odd time your fullback gets involved, it's very, very predictable. And it's very, very easy for them to cover and mark, and it just makes things so much difficult for us. So great shout on that run. It's exactly what we need to start doing more of. But we continue on again, very, very drab opening half hour. In the 25th minute, we get a free kick. And leading up to this, Ronaldo had lost the possession a few times quite easily, and it was getting a little frustrating. And then he gets this free kick. He smashes it, and it hits McKennie. He blows a tantrum. He's sitting on the pitch. He's getting up. The play's already going back. Everybody's running back. You could see him waving his arm, yelling at McKennie. Look, there's 2 defenders behind McKennie. Ramsey was also behind those 2 defenders. The odds of him not hitting one of them if it hit McKennie in the midsection is slim to none. Ronaldo's got to just cool down, and he's got to pick up the attitude was infuriating at this point in the match for me, if I'm being honest. His body language was not that of a guy who is the guy for this team, and you've got young guys in the lineup. He's got to pick it up. But while feeling this way, in true Cristiano Ronaldo fashion, it didn't take long for him to flip the switch, and all of a sudden, you're knocking him for something, and he comes through big. We start to kind of dial it up a bit after that moment. Chiesa does great work on the right side. Again, this guy is night and day from one wing to the other. But it was Crotone, and I expect Chiesa to take it to them. So he did. 28th minute, hard low cross. The goalkeeper just gets tips to it before it gets to CR. He's not able to direct it on goal. 32nd minute, we're buzzing around on a set piece, and it falls to De Ligt, who smashes this thing just wide. Almost get the opener there. 37th minute, great ball from Chiesa. Ramsey heads this thing off the bar. So we start to really dial it up after that free kick, essentially. We really start to put the gears to him. 42nd minute, and we get a great, actually in the 38th, we have some build-up. McKennie goes out again after a set piece, and he collects the ball. Sandro slides out, and he's allowed acres of space. McKennie slides the ball to Sandro, and Sandro puts a money cross right on the head of CR, and no chance for the keeper. 1-0. There we go. You get our opening goal, and you see the frustration that's coming out of Ronaldo, because you and I discussed it. He doesn't even celebrate Ulrik.
And he always celebrates. It's always the same thing, and but this time he's just angry.
Yeah, you could just see it in him. He was just, there it is. Let's go. And maybe it has something to do with the title, the scoring title, and starting to chase Lukaku as he had been surpassed. But there you go. He's level with Lukaku. He's got 1. We're on the board.
3 or 4 he scored the last time. So he's like small little drought there. So, yeah, I think it was important to him. So important he forgot to celebrate.
Yeah, well, he's just, again, I just see a guy that's just frustrated and just, yeah, like I say, just letting it out. And then Credit to Sandro on the ball, but I think you can see if we start to work it in that area for crossing, and that's an area that's usually occupied in our main buildup by the midfielders. There's times where we need to stop looking for the feet and the 1-2s and start having these types of crosses in there against the better teams and the ones that are parking it. You have to put them under. We get the ball in that area quite a bit with our mids. They have to start crossing it in there because Sandro, that's the perfect range for him on a cross. But when you move him out to the outside, the far wide wing, that's where it's not there. And it just seems a bit outside of his range. It seems a bit outside for Quadrado most times. But if we get it in that money zone and start having the crosses, and we do quite well. Chiesa is a great crosser from there. If you see him cut in with his left, he'll even cross it in with his left like he did on the Ramsey attempt. So that's kind of the money spot where you could start getting more dangerous crosses.
At distance, yeah.
Yeah. So 1-0 up. We continue on, and Chiesa in the 42nd minute, 4 minutes after the goal, has a great attempt with his left foot just wide of the goal there. And then 3 minutes later, CR7 has a rip from distance, forces a save. Everybody's kind of sleeping on it, admiring the save or the shot and whatnot. And Ramsey runs to it on the byline, just gets to it, crosses it in, and CR just makes a great run and attacks this thing and pops it right in the bottom corner. There's your 2-0, and there's the celebration, okay, from CR, starting to feel better. And 2 minutes later, CR7 misses an absolute sitter, which would have put him on a hat trick at halftime, and he was pissed. And he looked over to see if he was offside. He wasn't. He was actually onside, which infuriated him even more. But we end up half that way. Okay, we're 2-0 up, and it's starting to look good. It was a slow drab half, but it continued on. We started to generate a lot and looked good. Ramsey looked good. Chiesa looked fantastic. And CR started banging goals. It was good. Again, now what do I expect? I expected Juve to go into a business-like approach, see this one through, keep the guys healthy, get some changes in. You've got so many guys that are, again, we were talking not fully 100% fit. Get some guys some rest, okay? So that's what I expected at halftime, but the half went exactly how I thought. Drab, slow start, business-like approach, but ultimately we should leave with a lead, and we did, a 2-goal lead. That could have easily been 4. Your thoughts at halftime, Ulrik?
Well, I was blown away by the last couple of minutes and the 2 goals, and especially the second goal from Ronaldo. That was just, it's an insane header. It's so much power, and it's just the perfect Ronaldo thing. But I was also a little frustrated that things really didn't work out perfectly, and there was no fluidity to the game, and it was very on and off. But then I rewatched it today before I had to talk with you, and it was chance after chance after chance. I think I noted like 12 to 14 pretty clear chances, and I know we went through some of them. We were generating so much. Okay, it's Crotone, but it was really, I think the team was on. It was not necessarily always pretty, but it was good, and I was completely calm at halftime. I just knew that we would not throw this away.
Absolutely. And Lewis comes in saying when Ronaldo has an edge to him, he's so much fun to watch, and he just hits on a different mindset. And it's true. And like I said, that kind of summed it up perfectly. He has these moments and you get so frustrated, you know, and like I said, I was so frustrated by the body language and him easily being dispossessed, not fighting enough. And then all of a sudden he just, boom, like a switch gets turned on and he's just an absolute monster. So that's what he can do, but that's what we need. We need him on like that all the time. And I think as of late, there's been many Juventini voicing their opinions on that body language, that attitude as of late, not being to what we have come to expect out of Cristiano Ronaldo. And I truly believe it's a fair assessment over the past little while here of matches. We know he has another couple gears than what we've got, and it's just a matter of getting that consistently. But yeah, halftime, I felt great. We go into second half. I was thinking, you know, get 10 minutes in here and then let's start making some changes. But we get in there. And 61st minute, Chiesa beats his man again down low, gets into a money area, puts a money pass out front, but gets cut off by a defender. Would have been an easy tap in. CR7 in the 63rd is trying to shout for a PK again. He was free and clear at the back, but he just got it all wrong. There was a bit of a nudge there, but nothing near calling for a PK in my opinion.
It was a real Chiellini-like small push from the defender. It was perfectly timed, no PK, but it brought him just a little off balance.
Yeah, I mean, he got the kick all wrong. If I'm looking at it and at the timing, it's just, I still think with that amount of contact, he should have been doing a bit better with the shot. But he shot to no avail. 64th minute, again, like just chance after chance. CR7 gets stopped on a nice run that he was fed through on. This coming from the right side of the area. Blasts it, keeper stops it. And then McKennie. We, again, a set piece. We're causing some havoc, and he ends up getting to this one and just absolutely smashes it in for 3-0. There you go. There's your sealer, absolutely out of question. Get the changes in, right? Change the bodies. And he does. He changes Bentancur.
Oh, we're off again. Maybe we'll come back. Let's see what happens. Maybe I'm off, maybe I'm still on. If I'm on, I could talk about McKennie. How great is this kid? Oh,
apologize for that timeout. I'm not sure what. So Fagioli comes in for Bentancur, okay? And this is, again, we have to see. Okay, Fagioli. Everybody's hot on Fagioli. And, again, we talked about this. I would have liked to see him at the start of this match. It's now a 3-0 match. We've been controlling this match since that half-hour mark. Crotone has looked pretty toothless, okay? And you go on from there, and this becomes easy. However, that said, Fagioli looked very good in terms of on the ball, what he was seeing, how he was reading the play, and where he was advancing the ball. I think the tools are all there. I think it's all there, and I'm not denying this kid's potential by any means. I said he is extremely promising. I just need to see it. I need to see it when there's something on the line, not against a Serie B side like Spal. This would have been perfect because it's a must-win match, and the opponent being a 20th table side, it should have been Fagioli's start, in my opinion. That's just me. Yeah. What he did show was great. He was excellent when he stepped in, controlling play. His touch is fantastic.
Arthur-like, he's really got that small space control.
He's very, very Arthur-esque. You could see him using the pivots and the turns quite nicely to maintain possession until he determined where he needs to go with the ball. Very, very Arthur-esque, but I think Fagioli has the potential to give you a bit more direct passing, a little more offensive. But again, I need to see it when the game's tighter.
One of the things, I'm an old Juventus guy, so what I was watching also is how is he covering, and he's actually really good defensively. He makes the right runs. He's covering better than Ramsey, for example. So I was thrilled about that part also.
Yeah, we're gonna get to more on Fagioli after we round out the highlights, because I know Alex, who's joining us live, he's sending me DMs now about this kid and highlight videos, and he's just like, you need to get on board. Look, I'm on board with Fagioli. I just need to see it. I need to see it in a more intense manner, right? But we continue on. 74th minute, again, a great opportunity, and Ramsey gets stopped. He just couldn't tuck it in from point blank. Ramsey deserved a goal in this one. He was fantastic. He did a lot of great work in this match. 75th minute, Morata comes in for Kulusevski. Bernardeschi comes in for Ramsey. I feel a little bit odd about these changes. The reason is if Morata's ill and has been ill, what's the point? Give Kulusevski the rest of it. Even Kulusevski has been ill or whatnot. So just I didn't see the point in that. And for me, 3-0 match, 75th minute. Why is Cristiano Ronaldo still out there? Chasing the hat trick is the only thing I can think of for the goal scoring title. But again, we need this guy to be like that all the time. And if you've got an opportunity, even if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you could sit him in a match, just do it. Rest the guy. We need him at 150% all the time. I didn't see the point in having that in those subs, other in just the Morata one, and not having CR come out at some time. But were you thinking the same things, Ulrik, or how'd you feel?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, and I think that the story about Morata is a little strange. We keep hearing that he's had intestinal problems and he had the flu and he's not off, and we also hear that he's on a bad form. And I think they wanted to give him a little bit of success, maybe give him a goal, because I think he's both probably been sick, but he's also in a little bit of a downward slope right now and needs some.
And that's a good shout, Ulrik. And even Pirlo was talking about, he knows he's in a little bit of a funk, and he started talking about how sensitive Morata is to that.
Yeah, now we know that.
And it's a little look inside at the fact that these guys are humans. They're not machines. They're not robots. They're like you and I, and that's their job. And, we've all felt stress at the workplace, and, everybody deals with it in their own way. And it shows that Morata's a little bit in his own head right now. And maybe that is the reason, you try to get him in there, try and bag goal. And oddly enough, one falls to him in the 76th minute, a minute after he enters, and he almost puts it home. Again, after a set piece, a little bit of a scramble there, he almost puts one home, doesn't fall for him. 78th minute, Bernardeschi just goes over the bar with a nice rip from good distance. And I actually liked the work Bernardeschi did in this one. And I thought he was very, very good coming on. And I don't have a problem with Bernardeschi when he comes on like that. But again, Crotone and whatnot, and I would expect that at the very least from Bernardeschi. But 85th minute, we get our last round of changes. Frabotta comes in for Sandro. Di Pardo comes in for Chiesa. Again, I'm not sure why even 5 minutes isn't enough of a rest for Ronaldo or anything. It's just, it's funny, but we see this one out comfortably. 3-0. We get the clean sheet, we get a win. We get some confidence to some of these guys. Ramsey looked very, very well coming back from his injury. And Ronaldo bags a brace. So we're good. And another goal from a midfielder coming from McKennie. All is well. Must-win match. It's won. And now we look ahead to a tricky match against Verona. What we're going to do now is and everybody that's joined us live, I want to hear who you had for man of the match. We're going to start there before we start talking about player performances. We're just going to be highlighting on a few key guys. So Ulrik, who was your man of the match in this one?
Well, there's absolutely no question for me that it's Chiesa. Makes all the difference, has the speed. I'm going to admit something. I was really skeptical when we bought him. A, we already had Kulusevski. B, he was not that good. I know he was like a highlight player, but was he really that good at Fiorentina? And he can't defend, he runs all over the place. So I was like, oh God, this could turn out to something really bad. And I was so wrong. This guy is just golden for us. I don't care if he can't defend. He can do all the stuff that we need there, even in small, tight places. He doesn't need to have the place to run. We saw that in this game. He can make the small little tricks on the side, and he can just deliver. and he can score, as we saw against Porto. So I'm 100% sold now, but I wasn't in the summer. I was just, oh God, maybe we're buying this guy just because now is a chance. But I was wrong. I've been that many times before.
Yeah, and that's the thing is there's a lot of Juventini that Chiesa is making them eat their words basically on what they thought, and it goes to show as well how your scenery as a player can have an impact on players and changes, because this big story on Chiesa was always the stats. His last, everybody was like, he had one great season with Fiorentina, and then the rest he had minimalistic numbers, was not very strong one up. But look, again, you have to look at the player's traits, his abilities, what he brings, how he plays, and make it make sense to you and your team. I always saw this kid that is so direct, go, big engine, big motor, works tirelessly. And I always admired that. And I'm like, man, this guy doesn't care what the score is. He doesn't care what minute of the match is. He plays it the same the whole way through, and he gives his maximum effort every time he's out there. And that alone is going to get you points. And then when you factor in the actual level of skill and talent he possesses, it's a recipe for an absolute monster if you can unleash him properly amongst a system. And for us, he's been huge. And
I think that guy's it's a steal, even for the insane amount of money we end up paying for him. I think he's just so important to change the pace. I know, because we have these dull moments and we're moving the ball around, and Rabiot and Bentancur, and nothing really happens. And when it happens over there. And it happens when he's on, preferably his right side, and he just takes on everybody. And he gets pulled, or he gets a cross in, or he gets shot in. He really makes a difference. So, and especially the first half, he was just tearing it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, man of the match, I mean, Cristiano did have a brace, but for me, the constant, even before that, and a lot of opportunities in creation came from Chiesa. For me, it's got to be Chiesa for sure for man of the match in this one. We've got a question coming in from Alex here, and it's, do you guys see Freddie at the 10 role potentially? I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure if I do, because he does so much damage in the 1v1s that I'm not so sure if we put him in there.
So what I saw today, and remember back to the beginning of the season when we had Cuadrado go up high, and it was either Kulusevski or Dybala, and they were like kind of standing on each other's toes, and it just didn't work, and it was just a mess. This match, and yes, I know it was Crotone and it was easier, but the interplay between Kulusevski and Chiesa, sometimes Kulusevski going out right, Chiesa going in, and vice versa, that really worked. Yes, we had no number 9 in the box, but we had Cristiano Ronaldo. But I think I was really thrilled to see some of that. These two young guys understand each other.
Yeah, it's the thing with me is Kulusevski is a bit of an enigma currently, and he's just got to find what he showed us in this one all the time. I need to see it against the stiffer tests and whatnot. And he has had his moments where he has become lost in matches. And that's just
his natural position is in this Pirlo hybrid, where it's a 4-4-2 and then goes to a 2-3-3-2 or whatever we call it when we're in attack. Where does Kulusevski fit in? Because I'm a little, is he the 10, or how does that work? I don't think he has a really true natural position in this.
Well, he doesn't, and that's kind of what my thing with Kulusevski is, and that's why he's become an enigma, because everybody's like, he's our 4th striker option. But the thing is that I don't see it. I see it getting us out of a pinch, but by no means is it a strong alternative to Morata. And it's just. I don't know. I think I kind of agree with AJ right now that's coming in saying I don't see Kulusevski in a starting lineup. I think he's ideal as a sub. And that's not really a knock on Kulusevski. It's just, again, speaking to him and having a true role in this team right now, it's not so clear. But as a sub, he can make a huge impact on tired legs because he is physical and strong. But again, it's hard to take a lot out of this because it is Crotone. And this is another thing too. Sometimes you get so high and so low on matches and whatnot, but these ebbs and flows of this particular season kind of suit where this club's at to a T. A big, massive change in roster, big change in age, and a new manager, a manager that nobody knew what to expect. It's totally natural to do these. This Crotone match, I'm afraid we can't take as much as we want to out of this one.
It's going to be tough with Verona. Super tough again.
You just can't. You can't. So you take what you've seen over the course of the season and you kind of have your beliefs on what you think is our best 11 and how we move on from there. But to base everything on, or so much on this particular match, it's tough. And then that brings us to, Fagioli. So Fagioli for Bentancur. So many are ready to pull the trigger. And, here's the thing. We have a tricky fixture coming up, mid-table side, Verona, that just plays in general is very, very pesky side. And it's a must win for us. These are all must wins. Our next stretch of matches is a must win. And we have a lot of them that are at home. This particular one will not be, but it starts here. Do you go with Fagioli in this one? But again, I don't see Bentancur being the one that gets pushed out. And many are like, you go away from Bentancur, go with Fagioli. I think Fagioli can play in there while Bentancur is still out on the pitch. Because I don't know if I like the sounds of Fagioli and Rabiot, as a two, because Rabiot, he is hit and miss. So I don't know. Your thoughts on this whole thing now, and Bentancur's kind of being done with in many Juventini's minds and whatnot, and I'm not so sure I'm there as of yet.
I would say that, maybe it's time. He's a much better ball player than Bentancur, or even some of the other options like Rabiot. He's less experienced, but what we're going to see against Verona is a high press. That's what they always come with. They're really good at it under Juric. And there's going to be a lot of pressure on the people receiving the ball. And this guy looks really cool. Arthur is likes that we discussed in the beginning. And I think that he can do some really good things. We should, though, also remember he's 20. He's just moved up. There's a lot of hype on him now. I think it's a balance between protecting him a little bit and easing him into the game, and then also really taking advantage of the skill that he has. So I'm on the fence, which is ridiculous, but I would say that I would probably play him there. I think he's better under pressure than Bentancur. We've all seen what happens when Bentancur is under heavy pressure.
But he hasn't been under pressure.
No, but just the small examples where you got a guy in the back and he receives the ball from one of the defenders.
Because this is my exact thing, is we just haven't seen it. Do I agree that Bentancur has had his struggles? Absolutely. Bentancur is not a bad midfielder by any means. What he is incredibly inconsistent, is what he is. People want to, make him out now that he's just not good whatsoever, and that's just not true. It just isn't. He's a good midfielder. However, he's one of the guys we're trying to put. He's a square peg we're putting in a round hole. He's just not going to work at what we're trying to get out of him. He's incredibly inconsistent at it. Again, we look at Bentancur, and I've been saying for years on here, he doesn't show enough offensively when he was playing as a Mitsala in a 4-3-3. He doesn't give you enough in the attacking phase. Box to box, again, he's better defensively. I see him as a good ball winner, in somebody's midfield. That's why I don't think it's a straight swap Fagioli for Bentancur. I think Fagioli can play. I think we need to see him. And again, he hasn't been under pressure. And Alex, I know he was going to get fired up over this topic. He hasn't been under pressure, but how is he going to do worse than Benta realistically? How can he do worse? It's easy how he could do worse because we haven't seen it yet. And all I'm saying is, I'm not saying he can't do it. People need to understand that is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is pump the brakes and let's actually see what he can do in a more stern test. Fagioli has all the tools. I'm saying he has all the tools. What I'm more speaking to is we're being a little harsh on Bentancur because he's doing something he shouldn't be doing. That's what it's become. And we have to be realistic about that.
I'll be happy
to Fagioli do better. Sure, Fagioli could do better, but let's see it. He should get the start against Verona. Do you agree or disagree?
I think it would be really cool to see it, but not replacing Bentancur. I'm sorry. Bentancur is an excellent traditional old school defensive midfielder, which is primary job is to stop the runs against us, to make the tackles, to win the ball back. He can do that. What he can't do is really to play out from the back, which is, we saw that Porto, we've seen him many times before. He always loses the ball and control at some point. And he's also really, really poor when he gets closer to the goal. His finishing is worse than Ramsey's. So he has these skills, and they're very important when we move too many people forward and we're chasing the goal. It's really important to have a guy like that, even though I know we have a 3-man defense or at least 2 of them back. So I think we will break. It will break if we just had too many people running around waiting for it and nobody really covering. But that said, in the future, there's people better at doing both than
absolutely. So here's Colin coming in. I think there are some teams he can play against, potentially a 30-minute second half versus Verona. So he still does not see him starting in this one. Antonio coming in saying, Fagioli has a football brain, Pirlo said, and I would like to see him play in these next few games. I see him thinking immediately about a forward pass, and isn't that what we are missing? Again, it is what we're missing. However, he's immediately thinking about these forward passes and he's looking at them because he's played in easy scenarios. That Coppa Italia match against Spal, I've never seen a midfield with more space in my life. Rabiot looked like Zinedine fucking Zidane in that match, okay? It just acres and acres of space. Fagioli had the exact same amount of space. You can put anybody, and Bentancur, when given the space, will also turn and look at space. This is my point. And Colin kind of summed it up too, saying, I think there are teams he could play against, potentially a 30-minute second half against Verona. I think we have to take it easy on the whole Fagioli thing. He's a different player than Bentancur, first and foremost, okay? Will he do better than Bentancur? He has the potential, based on his skill set and abilities, to be better. But the question is it right to start throwing him in these matches and get him going in those? Because again, while we say he's looking for these passes, he's doing that. We've seen him against a Serie B side with acres of space in the middle, and we've seen him in a 3-0 match play the last 20 minutes in a match that was dusted.
But also, we need to remember that Allegri was the first one to pick him out when he was just 18 and say, this is the guy, we need to keep a hold of him. And Pirlo has moved him up and stuff like that. There's clearly stuff there that they see in practice that this guy has talent. And yeah, let's see it. Let's see more of it. Maybe he's the real thing. Maybe he's not. But we just can't have a Juventus team with 20-year-olds running around, no cover. We saw that earlier this season. It's not pretty. We need a little bit of balance.
I just think putting him on this thing as this savior, so to speak, save the season. I think it's tough. I'd like to see him balanced. I find myself leaning towards Colin's method of get him second halves, get him like, something like that, as far as building. But, Artur's out. If Bentancur's going to struggle and whatnot, you can make the claim that Fagioli should be in there. This match against Hellas Verona will be a tricky one. It will be tricky. I don't know. Do you start him? That would be a test, and it would be a stern test because they play. Hellas Verona will not be a walk in the park. This would be a stern test. If people have the confidence to start Fagioli in that, based off what we've seen so far, props to you guys. I'm not 100% there, to be honest, just yet. That's just my honest gut feeling is I'm not there with Fagioli yet, but if people are, that's great. But we have people kind of mixed feelings on the chat here. And I knew that this session on him would be, Lewis coming in saying we should be calmer with Fagioli, in his opinion, because use him as a sub, but throwing him into a den against Hellas Verona is not good, and AJ saying people get too excited about young talents they haven't watched. The moment you start seeing them play, they realized their flaws. I'd hate to see such a reactionary thing and watch this kid get thrown into a fire. And I get the whole trial by fire thing and whatnot, but this Crotone match was a perfect one for him to start. And I think we missed the boat on seeing him at the start with the urgency cranked up. And when Crotone was actually playing to us, I wanted to see the reaction because it's easier to play during the moments that he has so far. And I want to see him do it from the get-go in a match. I thought this one was a missed opportunity for that.
You had a point about these people being human, and this is not even human. He's just a kid. He just turned 20, and imagine him making a Bentancur-like mistake with 50 million people watching, getting slaughtered on social media afterwards. That's just not good. I know that that's the name of the game, but yeah, it could potentially ruin his development.
It could go either way. Yeah. You could put him in there. He could excel and he could show you this, and it's like, wow, you really have something here. It could go the opposite way, and we could get the same errors or whatnot, and we could struggle, and it might hurt him. It's a tough one, and I know that I've been one of those guys that's like, hey, we got to get to the younger guys, we got to get moved, but there's a bit of a balance that has to take place and whatnot. And I mean, if we're talking in rosters and whatnot, all these games, these next wave of games here, they're all must wins. This next stretch that Juventus is on, they're all must wins. You've got Crotone, Verona, Spezia. Spezia is a great game for him to start. We'll be at home. That could be the one. Let's see him from the get-go against Spezia. Then you got Lazio. You got Cagliari. You got Benevento. You got Torino. You got Genoa. There's a lot of opportunities that he's going to get for him to start and whatnot. And we will, I think, see for sure him. I think we should see him start one, possibly two of those, just to really, really see. But the trial by fire thing, it could go either way. It could go away.
Good.
Let's get into
Yeah.
Yeah, so Dragusin coming up in some comments.
Nice to
Well,
see.
Danilo will be out, and we're struggling to recover bodies. Dragusin, yeah, I've been impressed with what I've seen out of Dragusin, and I think he could fill
Good
fill a
question.
role.
How will we play the next lineup? Danilo is out. He's usually paid everything. How do we line up? Who's on that supposedly right left right back, whatever it is. Pushing, covering for.
Well, there's no doubt it's going to end up being the side on that right side with Danilo out that ends up getting the wing back position. So, you're going to see Chiesa play that side so that he'll go full up and down, and that slot will become the third center back. So, Dragusin, could slot in there or whatnot. Your other side will end up being where the fourth guy plays, which will be Sandro, and then you'll put your attacking mid ahead of Sandro. That's essentially what's going to end up happening. Demiral, Delict, Sandro, and Dragusin on one side. It's not ideal, but we have seen Dragusin do it in one match. But again, it was a pretty soft match. So, but I think Spezia, I agree with Francisco coming in here is, he's saying is not a good game to start, but I don't know. I think you got to pick a couple out of that mix. And when you look at the other lists, honestly, I thought Crotone was the perfect one to do it for Fagioli. But the Fagioli thing is going to have to come to wraps because it's just going. I know this. I knew that was going to be a hot one for fans. This is one I wanted to ask you about, Ulrik, this particular topic that's come up a lot as of late, and it's just Pirlo in general, and you have a lot of Juventini, and we even have recently heard De Livio speak out to this and say if Juventus was to go out to Porto, Pirlo would be out. And you have fans that feel that way, that are speaking up to it, saying, absolutely, if we go out to Porto. And for me, right off the bat, I don't feel that way. I think it's the context. Again, I see that first leg, and I see a couple terrible, terrible goals allowed. The second one, we just couldn't match up to the overload. The first goal, absolute brain fart from keeper and Bentancur, should have never happened. That's an instance that no matter what Pirlo does, it's not going to work out. You could have argued that he could have played someone else in that role, instead of Bentancur, but one way or another, the players need to be held accountable, and for me, I can't see us. I can't see it being realistic to hire a manager and say if you don't win the Champions League, you're out. Especially a guy that this is his first time ever managing, not just first time at a big club, first time ever managing. And I put that comment out on social media, and I put my opinion out that I just feel it's ridiculous to really gauge him without the context of everything. The team, his players, the injuries, everything he's dealt with. And I think it's a little too harsh to hold him to this competition. And the backlash I got was, well, here's Agnelli's comments after this one particular summer where it said Champions League is the objective. It's Agnelli could say whatever the fuck he wants.
It is, but it doesn't mean that it's realistic or
exactly. If Agnelli said that, I'm not going to use that as my basis to judge Pirlo. What I'm going to say is I'm going to use it as my basis to judge Agnelli.
Yeah. Because
if you're going to tell me and come out in public and say, hey, the Champions League is our objective and whatnot, and then you're going to turn around and hire a first-time manager because you don't want to spend money to get somebody with experience, then I would have to question your true intentions on really going after that and capturing that. The way the board has handled the entire thing after Allegri departure has been an absolute joke, if I'm being completely honest. I think it's been a shit show. Sarri was like a plan C. They had a plan. It backfired. I don't know what the hell they were doing, but it was such a scramble. I don't disagree with getting rid of Allegri. I disagree in how they went about it. Seemed so freewheel and just un-Juve-esque. Let's put it that way. Because it wasn't methodical.
There's no doubt in my mind, and it's easy to be clever in hindsight, but that Sarri signing was really fuck. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
We all saw that it was really drab under Allegri. I thought that, and you guys had a really good show on it the other day. Maybe giving him some new players could have given him some. He wanted to continue and all that stuff, but it was decided by the board. Not enough is enough. We need to play a different brand of football, which makes okay sense. Probably more revenue coming in from that. Probably a better chance of winning the Champions League and all that stuff. Even though it doesn't look like way right now. Then you went all the way to a revolution and hired Sarri, which is a complete change of philosophy when you look at what Juve is and has been. There's few coaches that will be more different than that. Sarri is just like, this is the system, this is we're taking chances, we're moving it fast, stuff like that. And the team was not ready. And the Senators were really just rebelling against him and saying, get this guy out of there. I was on a Danish podcast the day before the Lyon return game, and I said, this is Juventus. If we go out tomorrow, Sarri's not going to get fired. We never do that, blah, blah, blah. I've been following the team for many years, and of course we fired him. But I don't think that was because he was kicked out. It was, of course, part of the explanation, but I think the real explanation was senators from the team went to the management and said, this guy is just a really bad fit. We don't like him. We don't like what he's trying to do. We don't like this. So they went back and said, where's the kind of middle ground between Sarri and Allegri? And maybe Pirlo, apparently Pirlo convinced them that he was this guy, and he clearly has the backing, both from management but also from senators.
Well, time will tell whether or not he does or whatnot. But I start to agree with Colin here that says, people were arguing with him on Twitter saying, and he said, can a player not make a decision on the field to not play a shot, but to kick it long, like as if the players are robots? And it is true. These guys aren't just mindless robots. Pirlo doesn't sit there with a joystick in his hand and, manually controlling these guys and what they do. Antonio puts it best. 11 players cross the white line. They have as much responsibility or even more than the manager. So for me, there's been too many mistakes on the pitch that have nothing to do with Pirlo. And he's put it spot on there. We've getting too many errors from our players. We're getting too many inconsistencies. And that's why I say what I've said a week ago still stands in my mind. And it's the only way I could put it. Pirlo has a great 11 to put together aside to accomplish what he wants to accomplish. When we start introducing backups, subs, fringe players, it loses itself somewhere along the lines. When he has all his guys fit, though, he can make a great 11 that can accomplish what he's trying to on the pitch. Outside of that, we have too many guys that are in and out of form, and then you start makeshifting roles, and that's where we kind of get lost. But to put it all on Pirlo, I don't think is fair. And again, Champions League, if we get bounced by Porto, and the arguments that were coming in were the financials that it would hurt us financially to lose. Obviously, it would and whatnot. This is not the goal or whatnot. Obviously, we want to advance past Porto, but the argument saying, well, what I expect our team to at least put our best foot forward and whatnot, and that's on Pirlo. Again, you know, he's handcuffed in options on his lineups as well in certain times. And do you think he would have had Bentancur in that role against Porto if Arthur was available? There's no chance in hell. There's no chance in hell. There's no chance in hell he would have had Bentancur in that role if Arthur were available for that match. That first goal would have never happened. That first goal would have never happened if Arthur was on the pitch. There's no question about it. Szczesny failed to identify. He was way too lackadaisical on moving that ball. Took forever, puts it to Benta, and Benta made a mistake. That's not on Pirlo.
99 out of 100 games, we don't do that. That was just so insane to watch.
Yeah.
But the real point here, where I think you have a good point, is that it will make no difference to get rid of Pirlo. Who would you get in there that will all of a sudden make this group of players perform well?
And that's the thing, is you have to at some point commit to what's going on. But here's another thing. Here's another argument that comes in with this Pirlo thing is, well, they need to at least play with an urgency. They need to, okay, fine, I agree. I agree they need to at least put pressure on teams and go at them when up. But this is something that hasn't just started this season. This is something that goes back to Allegri. It goes back to Allegri's second to last year, halfway through that season, where all of a sudden there was this drop in intensity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it started there. It started there. In Allegri's last season, we were abysmal when it came to urgency, intensity, approach. It all started there. And to put this on Pirlo is not fair. He's trying to turn that around, but it's very, very hard. It's very, very hard for this team to turn around. And again, I see it change. I see it in ebbs and flows, but I see it depending on who's out there on the pitch. He's got enough that can give him a great 11, that could play on the throttle the way he wants to. But outside of that, it loses itself. Not only that, that list that just came out a few days ago on that tweet shows you he's not fully fit. Injuries like Weston McKennie playing on a hip injury, Bentancur with a bad foot, Kulishevsky ill, Morata ill and slumping and sensitive about it. Dybala just can't get healthy, for Christ's sake. Like, the list goes on and on. Sandro has lost his legs and looks gassed all the time. The list goes on and on.
That's the point. And I actually think it was on this show that I heard this, people comparing, saying, okay, let's take the Champions League final against Barcelona, take that game, that team, and then compare it to the team today. How many of the roster today would make it into that Champions League, the Allegri top point? It's Ronaldo maybe. So it's just a different team, and we're going through a really, really difficult thing of changing a winning machine to a modern football team with very young players that has high speed and still winning, and that's just really, really difficult. And right now we're not.
I think you're nailing it. I think it just comes down to us being realistic about what we have that Pirlo's working with.
Exactly.
You know? We have, again, we're missing traits and abilities at fullback and in the midfield. We're missing key components to build this team. And we're just not at a level where we may just not be at a level where we expect to be. And the question could be asked, if all these years, have we just maintained rather than actually set ourselves apart from our rivals and everything? I think that's a strong statement that could hold true, that we've just kind of maintained and we never really separate ourselves. If you look at the amount of money this team has taken out of competitions,
mm-hmm.
Our roster is kind of shocking, to be honest.
Yep.
It doesn't line up to be one of the top money makers in Champions League. over an insane amount of years to have such a drop off in rosters to some of these other clubs.
We had 8 really easy years. Yes, I know there was a little Napoli here and there and a little Roma here and there. The 2 Milan clubs were just a joke. We had 7 or 8 years to build this advantage. And if you put it really on the spot, Inter caught up in 2 years under Morata. Our old director and the new manager. And that's really a little bit of a concern because we should be so much better and we should just be able to take the hits. But that's the way it is. And we spend an insane amount of money on Cristiano Ronaldo. We all know that he's really, really good, and he showed it yesterday. He's also massively expensive, and really we pay him what it will cost to have 3 players of De Ligt or Lukaku or something like that. So we made a gamble on that, and the judge is still out, but can't discuss that he's a great player. He's a fantastic player, but was that really worth the money?
That is a whole separate show. That's a whole separate show. But Antonio comes in here saying that I swear that bastard Conte has a damn voodoo doll, stabbing the fuck out of it, so we get injuries every year at this time of season. Papa Shango, a.k.a. Lukaku. Wow, with the old WWF reference to Papa Shango. I love it. That's hilarious. Speaking of Lukaku, there was a topic that's been brought up that you wanted to discuss, and it's just a bunch of hypotheticals came out on the weekend because the news is light around Juventus when they don't play until Monday. So you start hearing all sorts of news, and the one that broke out was the Dybala-Lukaku swap. And everybody's saying in hindsight that that would have been a good move for us to pull off. And, there was reports and DiMaggio even saying that it was a done deal, and Dybala just him not getting his portion of the deal done is what froze everything. My thoughts are the same if we go back to that moment in time and not looking at it hindsight. I don't make that move at that time. That's just me. That's how I rate Lukaku. I think the Lukaku we see now is much, much different than the Lukaku we saw then. Credit where it's due to Conte. He's built a monster there in Lukaku. But he was not like that. And I still question if Lukaku can do it when the game is not wide open, end-to-end style where he gets the space, and if he can do it against top defenders. Because to me, Romagnoli and Kjaer don't exactly set a bar or a precedence for me in terms of defending. So for me, going back in time, I still don't make that swap. But your thoughts on this hypothetical scenario, Ulrik?
Yeah, I wanted to discuss it because I was actually pro that deal back then already in 19, the summer where we were shopping Dybala everywhere and people were really, really angry at Paratici, and we were especially targeting Lukaku. And I was on it, and I was on it because not because I'm super intelligent and really smart, just because I really wanted a real number 9 to pair up with Cristiano Ronaldo. And I also had I love Dybala, and on his day he's brilliant, but there's just too many times, and it's really difficult to find a place where he clicks with Ronaldo. We saw it a few games under Sarri, but other than that, he's not the real ideal partner. So I was all for it. And now the news comes out with DiMaggio that there was actually a deal. Juventus had actually agreed to the deal, and United agreed to the deal, and Dybala said no. So now he's back with us, and we just need to get him fit and get him in there. It's in the dark, but I would actually have done the deal back then. Just not because I could foresee how good Lukaku is going to be, but because I had my issues with Dybala.
Really? So after the that's interesting. So if we go back to that particular
Comes after the last year of Allegri, where we're playing Mandzukic and Ronaldo on top. This is Ronaldo's first year. Allegri has a lot of trouble placing Dybala. He's usually on the right wing, gets subbed off, and Costa comes in, and he's so inefficient there. And it just that 4-3-3 with Dybala as a right winger, it was really poor.
But then Sarri comes in and he made it quite strong with even Higuain in there, and it was weird. It's weird. I don't know, man. I don't know. I didn't see Lukaku I didn't see him at that time being around there, and
I was also even more insane. I was backing getting Wanda's husband from PSG, the ex-Inter. Icardi, of course. I was actually backing that. I was desperate for a 9. So I took a lot of flack on the internet.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know.
We need a really good play. We only have Ronaldo for so many years. And right now we have Morata, which works fine. But as we mentioned, these guys fragile, and sometimes he's in a bad mood and stuff like that. What if you put a really, really strong Benzema type of attacker right next to Ronaldo? We would kill it. Right now, it's very. I'm not crazy about it.
I didn't see Lukaku as this guy. Honestly, I saw a guy with shit touch, especially in his own half, and so many easy dispossessions. I just saw this guy that was like feeding on lesser fucking teams or whatnot. I don't know. And again, I'm still thinking he's a product of the system, and I think he's just excelling there in matches that open up for them, and on counters and whatnot. He's become devastating, but his touch has gotten better, especially in his own half, because before it was just not like that. Shit, the guy used to trip on his own feet more times than he possessed the ball.
It's true. I kind of remember him a little bit from Everton, where he was super strong, and then again Belgium national team and other places. But yes, he sucked back then. I think it was more a question of me being really desperate and frustrated that we had.
And again, it's okay to you could easily absolutely, but again, the question becomes, do we not have guys we can move before these other ones? And for me, the question when it comes to Dybala is, yes, you have guys 100% that need to go away before he does. I think what we need to do a better job, rather than, everyone getting caught up on hindsight and a lot of this, I think we need to do better at calling the time on projects that are not working out. For fuck's sakes, how long has Bernardeschi lasted with us? That should have ended quite some time ago, And then we get these guys.
Nobody wants this guy as his wages.
We get guys that should not have been with Juve for as long as they have, and it's crazy to see. And I think we need to do a better job of that. And again, when you start looking at this club and you start looking at matches dropped and points dropped here and there, and you start looking at Pirlo, and while we want to go hard at Pirlo, here's the thing. It's the depth. He has options, and it looks like this could work for us and whatnot, but it's hard. It's not. I don't think the depth is there. I think ultimately, it's this system as well. People are even questioning Pirlo's system. Is this the best for the players that we have? And I start to think about this.
Yeah.
And I think it is, in terms of, he can't go 4-3-3, in my opinion. Everybody wants to see this 4-3-3. I don't think he can, because we don't have the fullbacks for it. We just don't. Sandro would, he can't. So going in his hybrid transition actually allows us to stabilize the defensive aspect and not get ripped apart. Everybody destroyed Cancelo for not being able to play defensively, yet he was a main source of creation when we went 4-3-3, bulleting up the pitch. You can't expect him to do both of those. And you can't expect our guys to do both of that. Right now, we're committing to the attack with 4, sometimes 5 players. For the most part, 4. You go 4-3-3, you want to pull one out of the midfield, and then what happens when we're forced to play out the middle on teams that park the bus? Doesn't work well. So he's trying. I know what he's trying to do with this hybrid system and be able to provide multiple angles of attack, but I think he's hurting for certain skill sets and players that can fit. We're still not there with the roster, but in terms of what he's doing the best, I think so. I think, honestly, a lot of different scenarios still prove problems because of our roster. CR7 isn't going anywhere, but there's a sacrifice there.
Who's world class on this team right now?
Cristiano Ronaldo and De Ligt. Szczesny. I would consider Szczesny world class. But in the midfield, I don't consider any of those guys world class.
They're not even Artur. It looks nice, but it's always a 10-meter pass to the nearest guy.
Yeah.
After he turned around 5 times, it looks really nice, and I like him and all that stuff. It's no dissing the players. It's just that the real facts of the thing is that we don't have real world-class players. Maybe Chiesa is really looking bright. Ronaldo, of course. De Ligt, great. I agree on Szczesny. He's a fantastic keeper. But after that, Rabiot, no, not at all. Ramsey, no, not at all. We don't need to go to Bentancur. So there's like a lack of quality. Sandro is not the Sandro he used to be. Cuadrado is great on his day, but he also has his flaws and stuff like that. He's not world class. There is a lack of quality, and that's on the management that chose to spend the money the way we did. The Emre Cans, the free transfers, the high salaries, the what we can probably say mistake on Bernardeschi. So, and then all the money we put into Ronaldo. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just saying that the bare fact is that this club has record revenue, and we have a roster right now that's not really impressive. So putting it on Pirlo is a poor conclusion.
Yeah. And to get to your point there, Ulrik, too, I don't think the guys coming in necessarily need to be world class either, because you can't assemble it's very, very hard to assemble a roster that's full of world class. But I think we are missing traits and skill sets, and to have that problem, I should have been more clear when I was talking about that in terms of the amount of money Juventus has pulled through Champions League and all this. To be missing traits and not build a set specific team is frustrating for a team that makes that amount of money. I don't think guys coming in need to be world class. I just think they need to have the proper skill set to round out the team and what we're doing to. This is another reason why I say pump the brakes if you're thinking about firing Pirlo, because you have to commit to something to know what you need. Yeah. But in terms of our team, that may not necessarily apply, because we simply don't have that character in the middle of the park that will disperse the ball, that can spot these passes, that could go over the top if he needs to, that could lay balls in there. We need that. We need a driving force in the midfield, somebody that can take a game over by the scruff of the neck if he wants to, a guy that's not scared to take guys on, a guy that's not scared to have a go from outside the area, start ripping some shots at goal. We need a couple of those guys. We need fullbacks. We need a proper fullback on the right. We need a fullback on the left. We need these players. It's frustrating that we have makeshift players. It's frustrating that we don't have a rounded out roster for the amount of money we have made for so many years. And this dates back. This dates back to the season we lost Paul Pogba. He was essentially the last two remaining out of that midfield. And we lose Paul Pogba and spend a lot of money bringing in Higuain because we needed a striker. Because that year prior, it was like Zaza, and we needed a striker. Okay. So you pull in Higuain, you spend all this money on Higuain, but then you sell Paul Pogba. And this is like where it all begins for Juve. It always felt like it was one step forward, two steps back. And you could talk about players' will. You could talk about all this shit, right? But regardless, what Juve used to be great about is, and we got a little bit into this with Jonathan Grade on the pre-match yesterday, they used to have this ability to find somebody of equal or greater talent and replace. What happens with Juve is since then, we started losing these guys. We lost Vidal. We lost Pirlo. We never replaced them.
No.
Never replaced them. And then you had Pogba. Pogba leaves. You bring in Higuain, no replacement for Pogba. What they thought the answer would be was an attacking midfielder from Roma, Pjanic, that they turned into a regista, which got us by. But again, it should have never been an answer. And they held on for so long.
That was also kind of the survival tactics there, is buy the best players from your competition. When Roma was pushing us, we bought Pjanic. When Napoli was pushing us, we bought Higuain. But it was not necessarily great buys, especially in hindsight. I still have a lot of fondness for Pjanic. I think he was a great player. I also like Higuain, but he was just never really... he did that fantastic goal against Inter and stuff like that, and he did some good games, but yeah, he was never really close to my heart the same way. But yeah, it is super difficult, and it's also, we're getting the Conte years, and Conte was really good with Morata, and in building that first team. He came with the core of the defensor, the BBC defense, and Buffon behind them, and then you build that midfield. And then the first years, as you mentioned, the attack was really shit. I was like, Iaquinta, Matri, Zaza, that was a joke. But we had the strongest defense and the strongest midfield that you could ever have. And it's a high standard to put everybody else to, but we're very far away from that right now.
Yeah, again, it needs to make sense in building the team. It needed to make sense in building the team. They started to, you go to the big signings, you start spending money there, and then you start looking at the freebies. And Khedira did well his first couple seasons. I'll give him that. He came in on a free, and he was good the first couple seasons. Pjanic and Khedira worked in a two-man pivot. Who would have fucking knew? But it worked. But it shouldn't have been the be-all, end-all. And you hit a final. You hit a final, for Christ's sake, and you look at the bench, and Lamina is an option. And it's just like, holy fuck. Yeah, don't get it done with your first 11, because outside of that, you've got no help. And that's, again, spreading things out, building a complete team, trying to close the gaps. And when you look at how long ago that was, to still have the same scenario, it's a little tough. But it is what it is. We'll see what happens. Pirlo, I just think it's a little harsh on him. I think he's doing, honestly, my expectations at the start of the season, I think he's actually, he's right on par, at least exceeded them for what I expected. This guy has never been a coach before. A lot of people think because he's a world-class player, it just translates. That's not the case. It's not the case. It's very, very difficult. And you see a lot of players, ex-players, that fail as managers. So, yeah, it is what it is. I'm still on his side, though. I'm definitely not Pirlo. Let's play the season out. Let's see what happens. And who knows? Maybe we haven't made to celebrate again.
Even if we don't, listen, I've been following this team for many years. The 9 years in a row is insane. It's just, we've never seen anything like it. We're so spoiled. Everybody who started following after that this is nothing like what it used to be. And the other part is that we're going from a very, very, very tight winning core of players, and we're trying to integrate a completely new roster and play a different kind of football. if somebody could do that with a switch in one season, they would be brilliant. I think we need to accept that Pirlo would need this season, probably also next season, reinforcement in the midfield. We all know what's supposed to happen, and let's see how much money we have to spend on it.
Yeah. Now, to wrap things up, take it on a bit of a note here. Your honest opinion, do you believe Juve will win the Scudetto?
Yeah. I think we'll win the game against Napoli. We'll be within 5 points. I think we'll be in a much better shape when we get closer to having the next game against Inter. And I think Inter will lose it. Yes, they were brilliant against us. They kind of pulled the pants down on us, and they did the thing with Milan. But they're not playing that like that every week, And Conte mentioned himself he's more afraid about Genoa and Torino the next weeks than he was about the big games where everybody's turned on. When they face a Genoa team or a Torino team that stand back and do not allow them all the space and don't play into the traps, then we know, and you mentioned yourself, then this Lukaku, Lautaro is more manageable, and you don't get the speed and the counterattacks of Barella and Hakimi. I think they're Inter. They will crack. I know they did last year, and they will do it again, and we will be there to swoop it up.
Yeah. Antonio, bringing up a good point, Ulrik. Stop saying Inter. It's an offense on this show. It's Merida.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Old habit. I actually know some Inter people. Maybe that's why.
So that's great. You still keep it strong, and I like it. I like where your head's at, Ulrik. And last but certainly not least, you've been a fan for very, very long time. You can speak to the Blocca di Juventus and all those guys in Platini as well. What's your absolute favorite moment, personally, for your time of supporting Juventus? We're going to wrap up on that.
I think it has to be the 5th of May, where we clinched on the very last day, clinched the Scudetto away from Merida, because it was so unexpected. We were trailing all the time, just like this. They had a fantastic team. They had a guy called Ronaldo, and then they butchered it in the last day, lost to Lazio. We won our game, and it came out of nowhere, really, that we were supposed to have that Scudetto. That was really great. And it was in the old Del Piero days, and I was actually watching this in a bar with some Inter fans, and I was kind of mentally prepared to say, okay, well done, guys, and you'll get it this year, and we'll be back. And I was just screaming my head off the whole game.
Oh, that's amazing. That would be capping it off, is to celebrate that in front of Merida fans. That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. Ulrik, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. We had so much to talk about. We still have a bit to talk about that. I think we're going to have to do it on another show, and I'd love to have you back on, and we will make it happen, Ulrik, because we knew when we came up with the what we wanted to touch on that an hour and a half simply isn't enough. So we knew that was going to happen, but it's been a lot of fun. Again, thank you for all the support. Thanks for reaching out and joining me on the show. I'd love to have you back, and we will definitely set that up. Thanks, everyone who took part in the live today and joined. Stay tuned for the channel, because there's going to be another hot takes debate coming up soon. And we are going to start up something that Lewis and I would like to fire up, which is called Pint Night. Okay, so it's going to be 4 Juventini hanging out, and there's one rule: you gotta have a beverage. It doesn't have to be beer, but you gotta have a beverage, and we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna throw in we're gonna obviously talk about topics surrounding Juve, but we're gonna talk about some hot takes, and we're gonna have ourselves a couple drinking games too, and have some fun while we're at it. Maybe some Juve trivia. We'll play some Juve categories, but it's going to be fun. So stay tuned for Pint Night, and make sure you stay tuned for the next hot takes debate. It's going to be myself going up against a Juventino who wanted to challenge me on 3 hot takes. So we're not going to have one. We're going to have 3 with 15-minute time intervals for each topic, and we're going to battle it out. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Thanks, everybody, for the continued support. And if you're listening to this on audio, make sure that you start subscribing to the YouTube channel and start joining us live and take part in these discussions. Thanks, everybody. Stay tuned for all the fun stuff. And, of course, be back for the weekend match against Verona, which will be a tricky one. As always, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao.
See you. Bye.